Welcome to the C-Suite podcast with me, Russell Goldsmith. We are back at MPE Berlin for a second year. This is Europe's largest merchant payment conference, and we're recording this episode in partnership with Ecommpay, a global acquirer, payment gateway, and orchestrator that offers fully customizable payment solutions to its clients. I'm going to be interviewing a number of the speakers and attendees here on Ecommpay's booth, and I really hope you enjoy these conversations. Okay, joining me now is Anika Tazmin, the Channel Sales and Partnerships Lead at Ecommpay. Anika, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me, Ross. Great to be here.
Yeah, well, look, first of all, thank you for inviting us back onto your booth for a second year to record the show here. Very excited to be here. We've got a great lineup of guests joining us today that I'm going to be obviously speaking to. I'm going to ask you about that a little bit later on. I want to start by focusing on Ecommpay's recent white paper, which was called Making Payments a Profit Center. So it'd just be good to understand, as part of that research, you spoke to e-commerce retailers to learn about how they're transforming internal attitudes to payments, improving customer experiences, and driving profitability. So it'd be just great to hear out of that research kind of what stood out for you most.
So the white paper itself is a really great read. I'd recommend to anyone, if you haven't read it, go and give it a read. We've got around 6 moves, pieces of advice that we've given to merchants on how they can transform the opinions within their companies, from changing payments as just being something that costs to something that can drive revenue. It can boost expansion. It can really help your business grow. So one of the key points, I'd say, is getting senior buy-in. It's absolutely critical. Payments can sometimes be a little bit isolated within a company. So what you need to do is bring decision makers into the decision-making process. If they have better visibility of the value that payments can add to the company, better decisions will be made in the long term. So having clear ownership, ensuring that the decision makers are told what will happen, how this will help them, and ensuring that they're really kept in the loop. Because at the end of the day, we need to know data is important. Understanding something before you make a decision is all vital.
What do you think some of the quickest wins are that merchants can deliver once that buy-in is in place?
Well, firstly, reduce any avoidable costs. So if you can bring your fees down, of course, not paying as much is always something that will get your senior team's attention. And then I'd say improving checkout conversion, that's always really key. Depending on, let's say you've got mobile traffic, web traffic, treating them differently because, of course, consumers behave differently on different interfaces. So ensuring that you understand your customer base, offering them local APMs, so alternative payment methods, to ensure that they can pay in the way that they feel most comfortable. So if you've got people buying something from a specific country, ensuring that they've got a payment method there that they understand, they're already set up with, they're comfortable and they're familiar with. And then, of course, on your mobile, for example, having Apple Pay, Google Pay, little things like that can make a massive difference and boost your conversion massively. I know in the white paper we've got a stat as well about how many consumers would actually drop off a website if their payment method is not there, if their preferred pay. As an example, if I don't see Apple Pay sometimes, I won't continue with the purchase because I don't want to go and see what my security code is. So I need to get up, go and find my card. Like it can become a little bit more, a bit tiring. So I'm like, okay, I'll do it later. And then maybe I won't get back to it. So having those options there, ensuring that you've got a smoother checkout flow where it's less clicks to actually complete that purchase. Little things like that will then show your senior team that, okay, 1 minute, we don't have to invest too much in the beginning, but we can see the value already. So maybe there's more that we can do.
Yeah. How can merchants balance customer experience with commercial performance at checkout across different markets?
So I always say you need to avoid a one-size-fits-all approach. What works for another company may not work for you. Looking at those package offers, don't do it. It might take a lot of time. It might be a lot of investment with money, and it might not actually be what you need. So looking for tailored solutions that actually match what your customers are trying to do and how your customers behave, I think that's vital. Ensuring, like I mentioned before, alternative payment methods. You want to optimize your checkout flows. If you have a younger generation, a younger demographic that uses your website, or let's say purchases something from you, want to make sure that you can facilitate how they like to pay. So I think that's what it is. It's about tailoring your payments. There are so many payment providers out there today that do very similar things, but all in different ways. So you want to find someone that works well for you, that understands what you're actually trying to do, and then you want to make sure you translate that as well for your customers.
And looking ahead, what's the one shift that will shape payments over the next few years? And also, what should merchants do right now?
Okay, so that's a very interesting question. Of course, you can have so many different perspectives on that. So I believe that payments are already shifting from an operational function to a commercial level. So it's not just about accepting payments anymore. Of course, many people can accept payments, but it's how are you accepting payments? How are you optimizing? Payments changes every single day. The industry, the landscape, on a daily basis is completely different. Something can come in and change everything and flip it upside down. So what can merchants do? Of course, the merchant is the expert in what they do. You want to work with someone that is an expert in the payment side. So you're ensuring that continuous optimization. You don't have to chase someone to give you those updates or to say, oh, which API, which alternative payments can I integrate? They're already saying to you, I think this will be good for you. That consultative approach is something that we don't see very much nowadays. So I think that's really, really important. And then, of course, the payments industry gets more and more complex. So you need to ensure that you're ready for that. So thinking ahead, having someone there that actually can support you with that and understands what you need, takes the time to talk to you, think about where you want to grow, how you want to expand. That time is something that you can't really replace. When you've got someone there that understands you and takes the time, I think that's invaluable.
Let's just remind our listeners of the name of the white paper. It's Making Payments a Profit Center. Where can they download that? I'm assuming the website?
Yes, we've got it on our website. We've also got a couple of links on LinkedIn, on social media, but I think the website would be the easiest.
So ecommpay.com?
Yes, it is, ecommpay.com.
Okay, now, as I said at the top of the interview, we've got some great guests lined up that I'm going to be interviewing on your booth here. I can't let you go without asking you what you're personally hoping to learn from, some of the people that I'm going to be speaking to today.
Very interesting. So I'm excited to hear from everyone, but of course I'll give you a more solid answer. So I work in the partnerships division. So I'm very, very excited to hear from our companies such as Gravy, Payrails, Ecommpay. They're very similar in what they do, but also very different. So they've all got very key strengths, and they differ a little bit. So I think they're great companies to work with. And I'd love to hear what they've got to say and see their insights for the future. Brilliant.
Yeah. Okay, well, looking forward to chatting to each of those. But for now, Anika, Tazmin, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me, Russ. Pleasure.
So I'm now joined by Danish Kanojia, payments product lead at Wolt. Danish, thanks so much for joining us. I know you're a little busy here at MPE. You're involved in 3 sessions. There was 1 yesterday, 2 tomorrow. So I thought what would be good to start with is to get, a little feel for some of those discussions that are taking place. Let's start with the one that you did yesterday. You moderated a discussion on how marketplaces can unlock revenue through smarter payment partnerships. What was the kind of one key takeaway from that roundtable?
Well, that's a topic that's very close to my heart, because working in payments for merchants, I believe payments is looked at as a cost center, but there are smarter ways through which you can unlock revenues through payments. And one of them is the user acquisition. So if merchant is in a stage where they want to acquire new users, you can partner with local payment methods because they are close to the people in the market, the consumers in the market, and they can offer partnerships that can really help merchants acquire more and more customers. But there are subscription payments where you can ensure that the customers who are high-paying customers always remain in the loop and always contribute to the business in the good way and stay loyal to the platform. And of course, you as a merchant can also act as a marketing platform for payment providers to launch their payment methods and their ways of making payment for your consumers. So these are like 2-3 areas where I believe payments can act as a revenue generation stream for merchants and marketplaces.
Okay. And tomorrow, you're going to be chatting about frictionless checkout and UX. And then there's also one on potential and loyalty around digital wallets. You're going to be busy. What can we expect to hear from those discussions?
Well, for frictionless checkout, I think I'll be advocating about being invisible until you called for. So that's the kind of security and the frictionless payment experience that we as merchants strive to offer to our consumers. We remain frictionless, we remain invisible in the whole payment flow whenever it comes to complying to the regulation, whether it's PSD2 or making sure that we have got the right customer who's making the payment and making sure that the payment is a safe experience. This whole friction steps should be invisible for the user and only be called out during the payment flow when they're absolutely needed. And the wallets one, I think that's like really close to my heart because I've spent so much time doing digital wallets. And I believe digital wallets from a merchant lens is a single store of value for customers where they can store the value which they probably would have decided to spend on the platform in future now in the platform, and we can ensure that we give them the most best experience as compared to the other payment methods we have integrated with. but the best experience on our captive payment method, so that it can give real value for these consumers to spend on our platform and give enough avenues to spend by adding value-added services or ensuring that we have the best category and selection on a platform that consumer comes back again and again and spend more. So finds the real value in using that payment method.
Key focus of our conversations that we're having on Ecommpay's booth today is around agentic commerce. It would be great to get your perspective, like from your experience within the industry. Do you think early adopters can genuinely win here? And that could be in things like, conversion and loyalty, or could moving, too early create even more kind of pain points, which could be, any number of areas like fraud, disputes, reputational risk. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I cannot tell you, this is a question that is being discussed in almost every meeting that talks about agentic commerce within the organization. And that's a very valid point. I believe we need to be very, very careful in defining the early adoption. And we are still waiting for that infrastructure level change where agentic commerce can really help merchants and marketplaces to seamlessly integrate their shopping experience into an agent that can help consumers solve their shopping problems, right? That's a huge opportunity. But at this point, I believe that as merchants, we can be an early adopter of the protocols of the technology, foundational technology that is coming in. And I'm referring to being open for agents to come and learn the merchant platform, learn the shopping experience that you can offer. And the more the agent would learn, the more they would understand how they can build that shopping experience that we have spent so much time in offering this discovery experience to our consumers into the agentic commerce. I do believe there would be a hesitation in terms of, and we need to be very careful with the payment authorization, payment frauds around agentic commerce. And that's the key problem that we need to, as merchants and protocol providers, needs to work together and solve it.
Yeah. Do you think there's a genuine appetite from consumers? Are they going to welcome it, or are they going to be a bit cautious?
And that's like a classic question with every innovative technology, be it be Bitcoin or be it agentic commerce. But that's with agentic commerce, I can say with certainty that this is a technology that's here to solve a real problem, and that can be used in so many different ways to solve problem. I do believe there is a genuine appetite. We just need to be careful in understanding what's the right use case agentic commerce can really solve. For the type of merchant this agentic commerce needs to operate. I think merchants have built a very custom way and custom experience and by understanding their own customers. The challenge that agentic commerce needs to solve is understanding and defining that general shopper perspective across all these merchants, and then implement it based on every merchant's need.
Do you think, though, that you say there's a genuine appetite? Do you think that might differ across, sectors, ticket size? Do you think that there might be a difference there?
Yeah, all of them. For sectors particularly, agentic commerce has to have a strategy that how this would particularly work for food versus consumer electronic versus grocery versus fashion. Ticket size, of course, I think this is a new technology. Consumers like myself would be a bit hesitant initially before learning the technology end to end or before experiencing it with more trusted merchants. That's when the consumers would really open up and start letting agents handle their payments as well. But the fraud is an aspect that we really need to champion over time and ensure that we have like trusted partners and trusted technology that are solving it end to end.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you about that in terms of the fraud thing. I mean, do you think the industry may have underestimated, the new challenges that are going to come through this?
I do believe that we are going too fast with this.
Right, okay.
And it's also the matter of fact that the technology enables us to go fast working on the technology itself. And that makes a classic situation that where we might end up facing certain situations that we might have not discovered or thought through. And fraud is particularly that area. I think we have seen this classic with all the fraud prevention mechanisms that regulators, merchants, and schemes and payment providers, this whole ecosystem is introducing. Fraudsters are coming up with new ways and new technologies to crack that. And with AI, which is giving us speed of execution in the area of developing new ways of making payments, new ways of shopping, fraudsters are equally equipped to find out new ways of finding out ways to crack the system and get in.
Final one for you then. What kind of role do you think the PSPs should be playing here?
Well, I believe it's very fundamental that PSP should totally be aligned with the merchant strategies. If the merchants are very hyper focused on the consumer growth or optimizing the payment cost, I think the fundamental remains there. On the agentic side, coming back to our first question, right, being the early adopter. So the PSP should really help merchants be the early adopter of those foundational changes that are being built. And so it will be easy for these merchants to catch up and build on top of it. So if, let's say, a competitor launches something, other merchants, because they're already integrated and using the foundational services offered by their trusted partners, they can catch up and give consumers even a better experience. So because competition increases it increases the opportunities, and it gives you as a first player in the market a push to be more and more better, to more and more favorable for your consumers. So it's actually going to be a good thing. I'm really looking forward to it.
Excellent. Really appreciate you sharing your thoughts on that topic. Enjoy the rest of the conference. Good luck with those sessions that you've got coming up. Danish, Kanojia, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Raf.
Okay, joining me now is Cristiano Betta, the CPO and founder of Gravy. Cristiano, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
That's a pleasure. Should we start with a quick introduction to Gravy?
Yeah, so Gravy is a payment orchestration platform. The way I like to often talk about it is that we are the glue in between merchants and their entire payment stack. We tend to work with large enterprise merchants who have complicated problems, and then we also work with a lot of platforms, so that's PSPs, ISOs, PayFacs, who equally have complicated payment needs.
Sure. Well, we're here on Ecommpay's booth. They're no strangers to you. Ecommpay and Gravy announced a partnership just a few weeks ago, and that's to provide merchant customers with instant access to a wide range of local and international payment methods. Can you tell us a little bit more about all of that?
Yeah, like I said, we try to be the glue between our merchants and their entire payment stack, and Ecommpay is obviously one of the big players in that market. So when we had the opportunity to work together, we kind of grabbed it and kind of went with it. We've done our integration with them. We've got a customer live. We've managed to do that integration. It's super interesting, kind of seeing the speed at which we were able to kind of complete that integration. That always makes me, as the CPO, a lot happier. So that's kind of where we ended up with them.
As CPO, when you're kind of onboarding new partners, how long a process is that normally?
Oh, it's interesting. We have a couple of dedicated teams that build out connections to different PSPs, and we've got it pretty much down to a science. We're using AI to build these connections out. So at this point, the turnaround time for any new connector is like less than a month.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we're doing I think at this point, we're doing about 40 new connectors every half year, right?
Okay.
So Ecommpay came up. We had a customer, an airline, who was very much looking to use this, and we brought that on. We plugged them in, and we were up and running in no time.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Now let's come back to MPE. You were part of a roundtable discussion yesterday on the topic of tokenization beyond cards.
Yeah.
Give us some highlights from that session.
Oh, it was super interesting. Some of these roundtables can be more interesting than others. This was probably one of the most interesting ones I've done. We had, I think, about 12 attendees, and most of them were merchants, which was very good. We spent a lot of time talking about network tokens, even though the topic was not just about network tokens. It was about network tokens and PSP tokens, and we really started the conversation with the question, like, what does tokenization mean to you? And what was super interesting is we had a couple of merchants who were very much ahead of the curve, who were doing everything. They were doing network tokenization, PSP tokenization. They were using click to pay. They were really ahead of the curve. And then we had a couple of merchants who were very eagerly taking notes about all of that and all the problems and all the caveats and all the challenges that you would run into with that.
Yeah. Okay. One of the key focuses today, the conversations we're having, is agentic commerce. So I thought it'd be good, given how the work that you're doing with various different merchants. What stage do you think they're at on that journey?
Yeah, it's been interesting. I think as a as a product guy, I tend to have a lot of conversations with my customers, with the prospects about what problems are they solving, what do they want to do. And I think, the last 6 to 12 months, the conversation with all of them has been around agentic.
Yeah.
They all want to do something, they all want to make something happen, but I think at the same time, they're all struggling to figure out how to do it. So there's I think an entire suite of companies popping up just trying to help merchants with those challenges. I think for a lot of merchants it's kind of split into two. There's the commerce problem, like how do I get my cart, my catalog into these platforms, and then how do I then process the payments. Gravy is like uniquely positioned where we can play a very powerful part in that payment processing side. But I think a lot of merchants are still trying to figure out that first bit. We've done some very interesting stuff with a couple of merchants. What we've now seen in probably the last 3 to 4 months is we've seen a lot of these merchants move from a focus where they're what we've been calling off canvas. So focusing on integrating with ChatGPT or Gemini, they're moving to on canvas. So really having more powerful AI directly built into their in-app, on website, chatbots, etc., and being able to start experimenting with agentic commerce, agentic payments within that ecosystem that they very much control as a proof of concept for them to then take that eventually into the off-canvas platform.
Yeah, and how much thought goes into the failure modes that might come with all this?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the really kind of, I think where merchants are more interested in it is because they are fully in control on those services, right? They have the full chat logs. They have the full intent data really there. They're not having to rely on a third party. Often they'll also, for now, kind of are still expecting users to be logged in fully. They're relying on their wallets. So the failure modes are a lot less scary to merchants, right? Yeah. But at the same time, Gravy at that point can step in and provide merchants with some of those control around those failure modes.
Okay.
Just because somebody's on their website, in their chatbot, asking to buy 1,000 eggs, doesn't mean they probably want to buy 1,000 eggs, right? So we can kind of step in and provide control so that they're not being overwhelmed by agentic orders coming through their own services.
Okay. If AI agents start initiating payments, where does orchestration sit in that stack? Does it become more important, or does it fade into the actual infrastructure layer?
Like I said, the Gravy is the glue between our clients and their payment stack. I think agentic is just another layer, another complexity, another thing that all of these merchants need to manage. I don't think there's a danger to us. It's just I think our role might change over time.
Okay.
Right now it's about optimization, it's about processing. I think eventually it's about being able to track that proof of the mandate. Depending on which scheme you're kind of looking at, they're all coming up with different ways of tracking the authenticity of the request. That it needs to be managed. There's different agentic protocols that needs to be managed. So there's a lot of opportunities for orchestrators to still help be that glue. It's going to glue different parts together than it did before. And you
said no one's kind of moved yet on it. When that first mover does go hit the green light, so to speak, will they take the advantage, or is that actually going to create more pain points for them?
I think a lot of them have played around with it already. I think in practice, when you think about on-canvas agentic commerce, it's essentially an extension of conversational commerce, something that a lot of these merchants have played with in the past. So it's extending that with LLMs, with the intent data, and readying themselves. I think the question is indeed, like, once they move to that off-canvas, bringing it into the agentic kind of chat services, it's going to be interesting to see how that scales. Okay. But I think because they're kind of like ramping it up through their own kind of integration first, I think they'll be better prepared for it than if they went cold turkey kind of into a direct integration.
Okay, so taking everything into consideration, what you've said, what's a realistic time frame for this to actually happen, to get, for it to be kind of mainstream, and also what will be the key trigger point for that?
I think it's going to be. I was talking to some analysts earlier this morning. I think it's going to be probably this year that we're going to see a good percentage of it going through these kind of on-canvas conversations. I think next year we're going to see, I think this year as well, we're going to see the growth of those app integrations like we're seeing with ChatGPT, right? And I think next year we're going to actually see the direct agent-to-agent kind of integrations happening as well.
Interesting times.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Cristiano, Betta, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I'm now joined by Andrew Tomaszewski, the Head of Business Products at Zing Coach. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us.
Hello and welcome.
Now, should we start with a quick introduction to Zing Coach?
Yes, of course. It's a B2C platform where we are preparing using AI the trainings. So we are focusing on a fitness health domain, which is growing really rapidly. And the payments, it's let's say, heart of this whole ecosystem right now. So we are just focusing not only about the web, but in-app purchase as well. I mean, the Apple and the Google.
Perfect. So you said you're using AI already, which is a good start. What we're talking about today is agentic commerce. Where is Zing Coach in that journey at the moment?
It's a really good question because I don't want to say that we are not doing with it anything right now, but we decided to not be the early adopters of this.
Okay.
So I can say that we are in the middle of this. It means that we are pushing our PSPs, our vendors, including PSPs of course as well, to doing their job to prepare to be ready. So I can say right now we are preparing the payment infrastructure and environment to be ready. But even if, for example, I don't know, tomorrow all of our vendors came to us and say like, okay, we are ready, it does mean that we will start immediately with that. So
I mean, how far away do you think we are from it going live?
I can say that the early adopters definitely would start this year, but I think this is something that we are missing right now, that maybe environment will be ready, but we will have two types of adoption. First of all, it's the adoption of the merchants, which can be quite straightforward. The second one is the adoption of the end users. And in my opinion, this is, I'm saying as a consumer, will be much more challenging because I made a simple test asking my friends, which is not from the payments domain, how far they are to trust buying something via, let's say, OpenAI or any other, let's say, agents. And they told me that, no, definitely, I can check, I can compare the products, but after all, I want to go to the checkout page, I don't know, to the specific products that I want to buy and pay there because I trust. It's about the trust.
Yeah, interesting. So how relevant do you think it will be for your particular industry and sector then?
I think it will be really important. My imagination is that we are transferring from the place where Google and Facebook is a traditional acquisition channel to the place when the OpenAI will be the main acquisition channel, and connected with it will be the situations when the customer is not just only coming to our webpage, but doing the purchase directly on the OpenAI, let's say.
And you mentioned just a little while ago there about the first movers. Do you think that they're going to have the advantage, or could it actually create more challenges for them?
I think it will be like they can grab a bigger piece of cake at the beginning, but afterwards, as I mentioned, it's more about the trust, and they cannot see the real value at the beginning because the end users will not trust for the solution. Just in case, they will do a really hard job and will not take so much benefits that is potentially available. That's it. So in my opinion, if someone will not be, of course, the last one, but it will be in the middle, in the peloton group, let's say, will be good enough.
Yeah. And it's interesting you saying, asking someone from outside the payments industry, because sometimes we all get, we're
in the bubble. We're in the bubble. Yeah. So when I go to my friends that are completely outside the payments, it was like and when I started to talk with them about the autonomous purchases, because we have in my opinion, two types of the where we can go. The first step is when I'm confirming the payments, when my agent coming to me and saying, hey, I found the shoes that you're looking for with the price that you agreed, confirm the purchase. This is the first step. This is the step that, I don't know, MasterCard showed. It's the near future. But my real end vision of the situations is like my agent checking my Strava and saying that, hey, you run, I don't know, 400 kilometers with your shoes, you should buy new. So I will find new shoes for you and buy it for you. And when I told my friends that something like this is possible in the near future, they told me absolutely not. I disagree for that by default. And I'm not talking about the people 50, 40, 60 years old, but the people that quite familiar with all of the things about the online purchases. Maybe it will be different with this Gen Z or Gen Alpha. I don't remember which one it's the you know, the current one.
I know exactly how you feel. And then again, like I know we touched on it earlier, but what about the role of PSPs in this space?
So I can say they are key players. In my opinion, typical scenario is that we have PSPs and the third-party vendors, these payment orchestrators, and one of these two will be the key players. Because if they not adapt the environment, the infrastructure to do that in a proper way, and what does mean proper way for me? It means about the proper tokenization of the agentic tokenization. I mean about the fraud detection or some smart way to recognizing the real fraud versus the agentic transactions. And I mean about the pushing the whole network to doing the things. Because for me, we discussed about this many times, that we need to be ready with the know your agent as well, like know your customers process. And the second thing that I'm saying that it's something that needs to happen, like we have the customer initiated transactions, we have merchant initiated transactions, and in my opinion, we need to be ready to have the agent initiated transactions, which will be the third path. And if they will not be ready with this, the merchants can be the beta testers.
Yeah. Listen, brilliant to get your opinions on all of this. But for now, Andrzej, Tomaszewski, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'm now joined by Shyam Sreenivasan, the solution architect for e-payments at Würth. Shyam, thank you for joining us.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Well, let's start with a quick introduction to Würth and also your role within the business.
Yeah. So my name is Shyam. Like you said, I work for Würth Finance. We are the finance entity of the Würth Group. And within that, we have my team. So we manage the payments for the Würth Group companies. The Würth Group itself is a global market leader in the production and sale of fasteners and assembly material. We are about 400 legal entities spread across 86 countries. And we sell pretty much in every channel. So we're omni-channel, so we sell in-store, online. We also sell through telesales. So yeah, we sell everywhere. And we sell across various industries. So auto, metal, construction, retail. So the saying is that you look around, you'll find 6 things made by Würth.
Well, let's pick up on one of those industries. So automotive, for example, you've got customers, if I've got this right, Mercedes, Porsche, Tesla, they're using electronic data interchange, EDI, for ordering. How do those kind of highly automated relationships impact your thinking when it comes to things like agent-driven commerce? Is that something you're experimenting with at the moment?
Yeah. So like you said, we already have a fairly highly automated relationship with some of our larger customers where their systems talk directly to our system. So orders flow seamlessly, payments flow seamlessly. So it's not really agentic commerce, but we're already quite automated. But having said that, with some of our smaller customers, some of our bigger companies in Europe have their own chatbots, and we're looking to see if we can enable payments through these chatbots. So some of our customers can just interact with these chatbots, clear off their credit, make small purchases without having to interact with a human being. This is something we are experimenting with.
What do you think would be a trigger point then for Würth to actually implement agentic commerce?
Yeah, so I would say the trigger point would be when 3 conditions meet.
Okay.
So the first one would be customer demand. So my team's philosophy is that we want to allow customers to pay the way in which they want to pay us. So that would be definitely one condition. A second condition would be internal readiness. So before we let agents play around, we want to build strong technical and business foundation with strong governance. So this would definitely be a condition. And the third one would be where the market is. So if large players, PSPs, platforms, large customers like us start accepting or using agentic commerce, then it would be more risk-free for us to also enter. So these three would be the conditions.
Yeah. So given the complex B2B environment that kind of you operate in, what do you think, in your opinion, will an agent-ready checkout look like? Which capabilities do you think matter most, and to make it viable and safe?
Yeah, so an agent-ready checkout would, in my opinion, would be a checkout that can complete without human intervention, with the same trust and guardrails as it would with a highly trained sales rep. So half our employees are sales reps, so the checkout should also be able to complete the checkout and the payment just like a highly trained sales rep with the same trust and guardrails. The checkout needs to understand complex contract pricing that we have with customers, product data, credit note information, and other such details. And from a safety perspective, I think identity is very important. Along with that, the checkout needs to understand, which or the agent is representing which customer. Fraud becomes a very big topic. Currently, right now, fraud is not that much of a topic for us because we generally know our customers very well, because every customer is assigned a sales rep. But with agents, then KYA or know your agent becomes important. So fraud becomes a big topic. And given the global complexities or taxes, regulations, payment methods, the checkout needs to understand and navigate through all of this. So these would be some of the factors which I think the checkout should definitely have for agentic commerce to become viable.
Do you think there'll be any advantages in being the first mover here, or is it safer to kind of sit, watch, see what everyone else is doing?
I think for us, people-to-people contact is very important. Like I said before, I think pretty much every customer that we have has a sales rep, so with whom they have developed relationships over the years. But having said that, we don't want to just wait and watch, sit by the wayside, but we don't want to jump in blindly, so start taking baby steps and start experimenting.
Okay, and final one for you, in terms of the role that payment service providers play here, what do you think it should be in terms of merchants deploying agentic AI?
I think payment service providers can become the trust layer in agentic commerce. They already handle tokenization, authorization, authentication. So I think they're primed to be in the position to also identify which agent represents which customer. They also have a unique vantage point because they work with so many businesses and merchants, and they can identify unusual patterns and alert customers when there are issues. They can also simplify compliance, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel each time for AI-driven journeys. So I would say, in short, the merchants, we build the experiences, the agents make the decisions, and the PSPs, they ensure that the entire ecosystem stays safe, compliant, and authenticated.
Great. Well, listen, it's always good to get the B2B perspective in this area, so I really appreciate that. Shyam, Sreenivasan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. I was happy to be here.
So joining me now is Mark Blake, the Global Head of Technology Payments at TUI. Mark, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for inviting me on.
No, absolute pleasure. Let's start with a quick overview of your role and what your key objectives are across the TUI group.
Yeah, so I'm the Global Head of Technology for Payments at TUI, and basically what me and my teams do, we build an internal payment gateway to facilitate payments for all of TUI's global selling channels. We're essentially an internal service provider to all of those internal TUI selling channels to facilitate payments across the entirety of the group. So that's my role in the organization. We're currently building out an internal payment gateway. It's in a rollout phase. and we're looking to consolidate payments technology stacks across the entirety of the organization. So we have a common payment technology, single integration for selling channels to be able to take payments anywhere that they would like.
Great. Focus that we're talking about here on Ecommpay's booth is agentic commerce. I'm so pleased that we've got to chat to you today because, interestingly, in a number of the conversations, travel has come up quite a lot as a kind of classic area that it might be appropriate for. So, yeah, it'd be great to get your opinions on that. But also, let's start, understanding where TUI are at the moment with agentic commerce. Is it something you're experimenting with, or are you at that kind of watch and learn stage?
Yeah, so as you've correctly said there, it's kind of like the classic use case that people are using for agentic commerce is planning trips and things. And I think that's kind of where I would start with it, is really at this moment where TUI's focus is in that search and discovery phase and helping a customer be able to discover TUI products in their chat. And that's where a lot of the technology focus is at this moment in time, is making sure that TUI is still in that discussion and making sure that our products are presented to a customer when they're asking for a holiday to Spain or Greece or wherever that might be. And then the second phase of this, where I think we're maybe a bit more in a watch and learn phase, is probably in my area in the payment space. That's because it's still very emergent and we're still seeing quite big pivots in how things are done. So just last week, OpenAI and Shopify announced that rather than having the checkout actually in ChatGPT, it's actually going to be on Shopify's apps. So that's still very, very much emergent. So what we're doing and what our focus is really getting our underlying infrastructure, APIs, data management in place, so that's a good investment, whether it's a agentic commerce transaction ultimately in the future, or for our normal core e-commerce selling platform. So we're literally thinking about the underlying infrastructure, because that's a good bet regardless of if it's going to be e-commerce transactions or agentic commerce transactions ultimately in the future. So that's where our thinking is at this moment in time, and definitely trying to keep up to date, because it changes and advances every week seemingly.
Sure. How big's your team then that's like trying to manage all this?
Yeah. We don't have a huge team. We have a fantastic development team who are mainly based in Ukraine, so need to mention those guys. They're absolutely fantastic. But there's probably around 25 people across our tech teams at this moment in time, and then there's a business function which is supporting that as well.
Yeah. So what are the biggest signals you're monitoring at the moment then, before you kind of take that next step? Yeah, so probably from the technology side, I would say it's having some kind of like common protocols and standards across the agentic commerce industry, from card schemes, issuers, networks, etc. Yeah, that's probably the main thing. And then if I was to speak for my business stakeholders, it would probably be having some greater clarity around things like liability shift, fraud, and things like that are kind of the signal areas that we feel like we're monitoring, and that's what we're really interested in at this moment in time, to make sure that when the time is right, we can start getting involved in the agentic payment space, as well as surfacing everything to a customer through the chat app. And when that time is right, what do you think that agent ready checkout will look like, and how do you then future-proof that payment gateway, particularly in an area that's still evolving? Yeah. It's a very, very good question. I think it's $1 million question actually. As I mentioned in the previous answer just then, we've been, even up to last week, OpenAI have kind of announced a slight pivot in where we thought we were. We thought we were doing payments actually in ChatGPT. Now it seems like with Shopify they're going to be doing it actually on the App Store front, which is a bit different. I think ultimately where we will probably end up is payments probably happening there, and maybe even with the customer not being in that particular loop. Certainly at the conference here, there's been a lot of discussion about that kind of thing. One thing that I would say is that we're obviously a large travel merchant, and our holidays are quite expensive, and it's quite an emotional purchase for a lot of customers. And I think part of the holiday experience for people is actually selecting the hotel that they want to go to, adding extras and all that kind of thing. And therefore, I think maybe the customer would still be interested and still want to actually do that payment through the TUI infrastructure, rather than necessarily through ChatGPT or any other chat app that they might be. But I do think that eventually we'll evolve to that. But I think it might be
bit longer lead time for us from certainly from our more expensive travel product package holidays.
It's interesting though how, talking about ChatGPT and how consumer behavior changes so quickly. I mean, I'm off to Copenhagen in a couple of weeks. My wife, normally does all the research, just tells me where I've got to be and when. But I know that she's been using ChatGPT to like plan, give us some suggestions, plan our, give us an itinerary. Do you think agentic commerce is going to change the way that consumers plan and book travel in the future then?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I do that all the time. I'm the planner of between me and my wife. I really, really enjoy planning holidays and trips. Fortunate to work in the travel industry as well to do that, and I do that. It's like the classic use case I think for AI at the moment is help me plan a trip to Copenhagen, as you've just said, or whatever it may, or wherever it may be. It's already creating a fundamental shift. I'm using it. I know my parents have used it when they went on their recent trip to Australia and things like that. So it is 100% going to radically change how people are planning holiday experiences. It's just, are they going to make that leap in the next year or so to then say, I'm going to book a £5,000 holiday or whatever it might be without really me being there?
Yeah, there is that shift, isn't there, from research to actually let's let the agent go and do it all for me. And
I think that is a bit, I think with our product type and our kind of like ATV value, we will probably be in a situation where people will want to be in the loop when they're actually doing the payment. There's been a lot of discussion at this conference of, I'm just going to let the agent do the payment for me. I can't see that at this moment in time. Not yet. I think maybe we will get there at some point in the future, but it might be a bit longer than.
Sure. And what challenges do agent-driven transactions pose for payment authentication, fraud management, and also regulatory compliance as well?
Yeah, I think you've kind of hit on a lot of the bottlenecks that are meaning that we're kind of like taking a bit of a watching view from the payment and checkout space at this moment in time. Certainly the liability thing, I mean, there's been some quite good discussions actually at this conference about that, and it seems like there might be some optionality from a few of the schemes, certainly. But it's still very much, I'm uncertain about how that liability shift's going to work. And from our business stakeholder perspective, I think that's probably going to be something which they're concerned about. Fraud as well. I mean, these agents can be used for fraudulent activity. We have the onus on us to try and thwart that as much as we possibly can, but it's difficult, especially when things evolve in the AI space so quickly. And those are really some of the reasons that we're kind of like taking a bit of a watching brief, investing in our infrastructure first and foremost, because then that will be valuable for us, whether it's e-commerce or agentic commerce, whatever it may be. We'll be ready for that.
Okay. And final one for you, what about the role that payment service providers should be playing in this space?
Yeah, so obviously we're a travel merchant. We're good at selling holidays and holiday products. We don't necessarily have the time or capacity to be able to, be really, really in depth about this place. So some thought leadership, I think, is really, really great. I think Agentic did a good report last week where they really kind of like itemized out the kind of like unsolved problems that are still the case with agentic commerce, which I thought was really, really valuable insight for them to be able to provide. And then also coming up from a technology perspective to some common standards that we can, we don't have to maintain multiple protocols, multiple different integration types to handle an agentic commerce transaction. That would be really, really valuable for us. So that's what I'd be really, really interested in seeing.
Great. Well, listen, as I said, travel has come up quite a few times today in these conversations. So it's great to actually get, the thoughts and views from someone who's right in the heart and the mix of that. Mark Blake, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, that's it for this episode from MPE Berlin. Thanks once again to all my guests who took the time to chat to me today, and of course to Ecommpay for hosting us on their booth. If you've enjoyed the show, please do give us a positive rating and review on your podcast app of choice. And of course, if you want to get in touch with us, you can do that via the website at csuitepodcast.com, or you can find me, Russell Goldsmith, on LinkedIn. But for now, thanks for listening and goodbye.